Sailing Trelane, a disability sailing adventure circumnavigating the UK and Ireland over 2 seasons. This sail is in aid of the Andrew Castle Foundation, the sailing charity helping disabled sailors reach maximum independence on the water. Join Ian as he sails and adventures in pursuit of hope, equality and recovery. Welcome to Sailing Trelane this week. Thanks to Storm Otto, the latest named storm named by the Danish Met Service, work in the boatyard this week has been somewhat delayed because it's not been very sensible to be going down today and tomorrow when the winds are 50 knots. So I am bringing you what has been happening this week. It's a little bit disjointed and I apologise for that, but I hope that by showing you what's actually going on in near real time, you'll appreciate what it takes for me as a disabled person to get Trelane ready for the water.
It isn't often that you see me with Trelane in a full bunny suit, but today what I'm going to be doing is keying the anti-fouling so that the new coat of anti-foul will adhere well to the old coat, the red stuff behind me. I don't need to take the paint all the way off the boat, in fact far from it, I just need to give it a good feel for the surface. But the reality is that anti-foul is horribly toxic. That's how it works. It's a biocide, and it's as biocidal to humans as it is to the seaweeds and stuff that we don't want growing on our boat. This is a disability point really. I think when you've become disabled you tend to have a greater awareness of the likelihood of industrial accidents. So what I've got here is I've got a hoover and I've got the sanding gear. I got my mask and I'm in a barrier-proof suit. So the intention is that all the dust from the sanding goes into the hoover, not into my lungs. And it's a really important factor that you should never ever dry sand anti-foul unless you've got an extraction system running.
Up here in the frozen north, anti-fouling has some dimensions that it doesn't down on the south coast of England. There it's usual to wait until the boat is literally about to drop into the water on the basis that you might waste the anti-foul if it rains. But here there's another consideration, and that's temperature. So I'm anti-fouling in the boat now, even though it might be a week or two before she hits the water, because I know that for the last couple of days it's been warm enough for the anti-fouling to cure and to go off well. The long days have had some compensations, and that's been some spectacular sunrises on the way into the boatyard.
In the next section I show you some of the subtle differences between the Cala 3.9/4.5 kilo gas bottle which is being withdrawn and the same size of bottle from Flowgas, which has some subtle differences in shape and dimensions that may mean it is not a perfect match for your gas locker. Outwardly, Flowgas and Calagas cylinders 4.5/3.9 kilo cylinders have the same dimensions. However, there are some significant differences which may affect your ability to get these bottles into the locker if you're swapping between Cala and Flowgas, because Calagas are withdrawing this size of bottle. I'm really grateful for the large amount of engagement that people offered on Facebook about differences that they found and questioning why I was needing to alter things, because the outward dimensions of the bottles are the same. So I thought that I would offer you here some detailed explanations of what is different. So the first thing I would say is that you can see that the bottle base springs are very different. Okay, so in the Flowgas case, the bottle comes essentially straight down, whereas in the Calagas case there's a curve away from the bottle at the bottom. This makes for quite significant differences in some boats because they have a moulded retainer here which holds the base of the bottle securely. The other major difference is that the Calagas has a folding handle, and this reduces the height of the bottle quite significantly by about 20 mil to my estimate. And that makes for a difference if you need to tilt the bottle to get it into the locker, or if your locker height is very specific. The other difference, which is more subtle, is that the Flowgas regulator comes in vertically and takes off that way, and the Calagas regulator is attached to a spigot that comes out horizontally, and that may also affect your mileage, as they say. Apart from that, the bottles do have the same dimensions in terms of their diameter, and if you have the handle of the Caligas bottle up in terms of their height, but they are not direct one-for-one replacements, and that may be of interest to people who are currently contemplating swapping.
I've developed something close to a genuine hatred for finding bits of tabbing and glass work on the boat that haven't been finished, by which I mean sanded and is necessarily filled so that they're a smooth surface for me or for whoever gets this boat next, because to come to a boat and find that people have done stuff in the background and not really finished it off properly, it's very depressing. This morning I'm tackling a series of jobs, including getting the prop ready, taking the anode off, and working on getting the gas locker to a state where we can go to sea. Now, the gas locker, we have a problem because the deck itself is not that strong, and we're about to make a lid that comes down into a gap, and we need to support that lid so that it doesn't just collapse. So one option would just be to stick something to the bottom of the deck and form a lip. The problem is the deck itself is probably not as strong as I would want for that, because the loads which could come onto this lid would be very large. So for example, I'm 120 kilos, I'm overweight, okay? So if I imagine myself landing on that at 1g, which would be the force of gravity, that would be about 1200 newtons. But you see, there could be another circumstance where I go up because the boat's going down, so I lose contact with the deck, and then the boat comes up to meet me at 1 or 2g and I go down at 1g. So now we've got maybe a 3g impact or a 4g impact, so we're looking at not 1200 newtons but 4 times 1200 newtons, which is becoming a really quite serious force to handle. So what I'm planning to do is I'm planning to build a false wall, if you like, a false bulkhead up the side of the gas locker, and to cantilever the support for the lid off that false wall.
What you can see here is the core of the false bulkhead being engineered. I'm using two 90-degree steels to form a template for each of the bulkheads to make lamination easier. Then those two orthogonal surfaces are being joined with a fillet, which is what we describe as a curved section of a T-SIF that joins the two 90-degree sections, which makes it easier and stronger for the glass fibre to lay up against.